The story from Shoegazer Slut. I work at a hospital that doubles as a research institution. Since I'm on the research side, I have to involve lots of other departments, and most people with whom I work with are very chill and understand that I have to beseech them for things to do my job. I'm one of those "she can go 100 hectares on a single tank of kerosene" types of people, and I'm very on top of things, for which my coworkers value me. However, the one place where that camaraderie breaks down is with some of the nurses who work in my specific clinic, focusing on one particular disease. Honestly, I've done a good job making most of the nurses like me. I bring them homemade treats sometimes, and I'm always extra friendly and approbative with them. Some of them have their days regardless, and I put up with them. Right after I first started working in that specific clinic, unfortunately, one nurse in particular, let's call her Bitchelle, had decided that I was on her blacklist. Bitchelle hates doing work. She's like a kid playing Xbox when their parent asks them for help with groceries. She'll moan and groan, and if she helps at all, it's with angsty indignation. I needed a series of blood tubes drawn in clinic for a patient one morning, instead of down in phlebotomy, protocol rules. More complicated and stupid than it's worth getting into here. And Bitchelle was the only nurse available. She was extremely put off at my asking her to draw this protocol kit, despite my giving advance notice to clinic that this needed to be done. She clearly did not want to leave her computer, which was not open to anything work-related, but she begrudgingly went and drew the tubes. She was unnecessarily profusely thanked by me, just for doing her damn job. I came back down later to get a prescription signed for another patient, and a different nurse asked me what I'd done to upset Bitchelle because she'd apparently been going off about me to anyone who would listen. I explained what had happened. The other nurse informed me that Bitchelle was pissed at me, and also felt my outfit, a white medical coat, a modest blouse, work pants, and high-heel boots, was too provocative. What? I just decided to let it go and try to avoid Bitchelle as much as possible. This did not work. I kept running into situations where the other nurses were busy seeing patients. I was forced to walk back into the nurse triage room, which is off limits to patients, and ask Bitchelle to draw 2 more of these blood kits in the next month. She was never happy to see me, and she was always wasting time on her work computer when I entered the room. Maybe 2 or 3 days after that last kit draw, my supervisor called me in her office to discuss my presentation. She very nicely, and with pity in her voice, told me she'd received a report about my dress habits in patient-facing spaces. She said she personally hadn't noticed anything, but was obligated to discuss this with me anyhow. I assured her I had no idea what she was talking about. I thought about confronting Bitchelle, but decided not to because, yap knows, loose cannon and whatnot. After a brief reminder of the dress code, I figured that at least it was over. It was not over. 2 weeks later, and I hadn't even asked anyone to draw any kits in the interim, a formal report was filed against me for my conduct in clinic. This went to the hospital, and then my supervisor who, even after reading the report, seemed totally clueless about what it could mean. I explained what had been happening with Bitchelle. But then my supervisor told me a second person had reported this as well, on the same day as who was obviously Bitchelle. This time, it was a patient. The patient had reported that I was dressing improperly for a patient-facing environment. Whoa! I asserted that I wasn't, but I was nonetheless put on probation, which meant that my supervisor, against her will, now had to come with me when I saw patients in clinic for the foreseeable future, and a nurse manager would have to accompany both of us when she was free since I was dressing provocatively in patient-facing spaces, and that was her domain. But as you can likely guess from her browsing habits, Bitchelle was not the sort of person who needed more supervisors in her area. Cue malicious compliance. Fine, you want to punish me and force me to work in the eyesight of the supervisors? All right, let's get some supervisors down here as quickly as possible. My next in-clinic patient came in 2 days, and it was one of those stupid timed in-clinic protocol kit visits, which meant I was forced to ask one of the nurses to draw the patient's blood. I informed my supervisor, and we set off down for clinic. The nurse manager was in that day, so she accompanied the 2 of us. We all went back into the triage room so that I could ask for help with the blood draw. Bitchelle and one other nurse were there. What we saw upon entering was the other nurse entering vital signs for a patient into our health database, and Bitchelle, sitting at her desk with an online clothing retailer open on one monitor and Facebook on the other. I asked for Mitchell's help drawing the kit, and she sighed heavily and spun around to see two higher-ups looking on with disdain at her work computer. In embarrassment, she swiveled back and closed those two tabs, which revealed, you can't make this stuff up, a website for marital aids that had been open in another tab, about which Bitchelle had clearly forgotten until now. I just smiled and handed her the bag like nothing had happened. In the hall, my supervisor and the nurse manager were talking about Mitchell's display just now. Apparently, she had previously been warned about goofing off at work. The nurse manager told the supervisor that she was going to check all of Mitchell's work computer activity, which I actually didn't know any supervisor could readily access. What followed was so incredibly beautiful that I hope it made the ending of this long, long post worth waiting for. According to the nurse, who'd initially asked me what I had done to upset Bitchelle, her activity was searched. She was revealed to have been spending hours upon hours every day browsing the web, shopping, and using social media. Since she had been previously warned about this behavior, she was given a formal write-up. But this was just the beginning. The day after the three of us went down to clinic, my supervisor called me in her office again. She told me that Bitchelle had fabricated the patient complaint about me and posted it from her work computer. How did they learn this? Oh, that'd be because she saved a draft of the message that reported me to the hospital, and she'd accessed the patient complaint comment webpage the same day. My supervisor sincerely apologized for the hassle and told me I was no longer on probation. As for Bitchelle, apparently fearing the worst, she put her 2 weeks' notice in the same day after getting wind that she was in some far more serious trouble. For reasons I will never understand as long as I live, the hospital chose to let her quit after 2 weeks instead of firing her on the spot. Maybe they knew what a nightmare she was and were comfortable letting her quit on her own accord. It's not as though she was due to glean any glowing references from this experience. Maybe they just wanted some extra work. Our clinic was very short-staffed for nurses at the time. In any case, they chose not to fire her and let her quit on her own. On Mitchell's last day, I ventured down to the triage room to retrieve some outside records from their printer. When I entered, Bitchelle was alone and browsing Glassdoor. I unbuttoned my white coat and told her, "Hey, good luck with your next job. I hope the employees are less provocative." She slowly spun around with a scowl on her face. Then I lifted my dress up to my neck, flashed her bare tits, and walked out. And I never saw Bitchelle again. TL. DR setup. I run drug trials at a research hospital. A clinic nurse decided she hated me because I made her do her job and, she claimed, dressed provocatively. She made a formal report against me, and then a patient one surfaced. I was put on probation and made to see all patients with supervisors. TL. DR resolution. Malicious compliance. I brought supervisors down as quickly as possible. Said supervisors found out the nurse had been spending many hours a day on non-work-related websites, and the patient report against me turned out to have been fabricated by the same nurse. She quit in disgrace, and on her last day, I gave her a nice parting gift. The malicious compliance was flawless. By forcing supervisors into the clinic, OP exposed Bitchelle's laziness, dishonesty, and inappropriate behavior. The poetic justice of her downfall made the outcome even more satisfying. The next story from Seth Borf. Sorry, this is a bit long, but I really needed to tell this story. I work as a mechanic at a manufacturing plant in nowhere, America, and I have been for over a decade now. Before I got assigned to my current location, the only way to get coffee here was to either bring some from home or pay $1 at a vending machine to get the crappy cheap stuff. I decided to go with the first option, but took it even further by bringing my spare coffee maker from home and then bringing in the usual supplies periodically. I kept it in the mechanic's office in plain view. For the longest time, it was very apparent that I was the only one using my coffee maker, even though I never said it was exclusively for me. This went on for about a year until I got a partner on my shift who also drank coffee. We came up with the idea of starting a coffee fund by leaving a jar for spare change next to the coffee maker. Whenever we ran out of something like sugar or whatever, one of the two of us would use the accumulated change in the jar to help replenish our supplies. This was all well and good until my partner got promoted to maintenance supervisor some years later, making him my new boss, and I was by myself again. I left the jar sitting next to the coffee maker as usual and kept using the old routine. I also put a note on the side of the maker, in plain view, that said, "If you use the coffee maker, please put some spare change in the coffee fund jar so we can keep the supplies in stock." This was just in case someone from a different shift decided to use it when I wasn't there. However, one day I noticed that I was running out of sugar way too fast. I don't put much sugar in my coffee to begin with, so this told me that someone else was using the coffee maker. Eventually, I noticed that all the supplies were getting too low too fast, and not just the sugar. This normally wouldn't be a big deal, except I also noticed that the jar wouldn't accumulate like it used to. It either had the change I put into it, or someone would be taking change out, but not restocking our coffee supplies. I put up with this for a little while, but I eventually got fed up with being the only one buying supplies for the coffee, while one or more others were using it and taking money out of the jar. I took the coffee maker home and just started filling up my thermos with coffee and bringing it to work with me. About a week later, I get stopped in the aisle by a supervisor, not mine, as I'm trying to leave for the day. The following exchange occurs. Me is me. Saul, not his real name, is supervisor. Saul: "Hey, Seth Borf, what happened to the coffee maker? Did it break?" Me: I was wondering who else was using it." "Nah, it didn't break. I just got tired of people taking money out of the coffee fund jar without using said money to buy more supplies. I was still buying them out of pocket." Saul: "You took it home?" Me: "Yeah. I've just been using my thermos to bring coffee." He cut me off. Saul: "You can't just take company property like that. You weren't the only person using it. We all used it." Me: "But it's my..." He cut me off again. Saul: "You either bring that back, or I'm reporting this to my boss, and we'll see what he's going to do about it." Me: "I'll bring it in if people will actually contribute to the fund instead of me having to buy everything out of pocket." Saul: "You'll do your job." Me: "My job is to fix these machines, not be the company barista." Saul: "It better be in there tomorrow, or I'm going to my boss about it." He walks off before I could say anything else. The next day comes, and I, of course, didn't bring my coffee maker back to the plant. At the end of my shift, Saul confronts me again. Saul: "Seth Borf, did you bring the coffee maker back?" Me: "Nah, I told you, I'm not going to be the only one supplying it." Saul: "You can't just keep company property at home. That coffee maker has been in there for years, and you need to bring it back." Me: "I know it's been in there for years. It's been in there for as long as I've been here because I brought it from home. That's my coffee maker." Saul: "I'm calling my boss right now and we'll see what happens to you." Me, laughing: "Go ahead. I don't care. You can't tell me what to do with my personal property." I then walk out to my car and leave. While on the way home, my boss calls me. If you recall from earlier in this story, he used to be my partner. Even after his promotion, we remained close friends. The following conversation happens. Bob, not his real name, is my boss, former partner, close friend. Me, picking up the phone. "Hey Bob, what's up?" Bob: "I just got off the phone with Saul. What's all this about you taking company property home? That's not like you, man. What's he even talking about?" Me: "He didn't tell you what it was?" Bob: "Nope. He just said you admitted to stealing company property and refused to return it." Me: "Did you even ask what the supposed company property is?" Bob: "I did, but he wouldn't calm down enough to tell me." Looked like you really pissed him off. Me? Yeah, I know. Hey, you remember that coffee maker I had in the office way back when? Bob. Haha, yeah, the coffee funds, right? Did anyone else besides us start using that thing? Man, did I ever tell you that I still haven't had a cup of coffee as good as how you made it back then? Why are you bringing this up anyway? Wait, don't tell me that the company property Saul is referring to is… Me. Yeah, he's talking about my coffee maker. Bob. Look, Seth Borf, I know that's your personal property, but I really don't want Saul raising a stink about this to management. Nothing will come of it if he does, but it will just be a big waste of time for them to investigate and eventually write up some stupid company-wide email about property theft and blah, blah, blah. Just bring it back. Me. I'm not going to be the only one supplying the coffee. Bob. How about this? Bring it back in, but keep a spare set of coffee supplies in your personal locker. Bring in some supplies for everyone to use at first, even use the coffee fund jar again. But after that initial stock, just only resupply for yourself. That way, if Saul or anyone else wants to use it, they are going to have to bring in their own supplies when that initial stock runs dry. Is that okay with you? Me. I think I'll do that. And that's what I did. The next day, I did as Bob asked, but I also kept additional supplies for myself in my personal locker. I didn't tell anyone else about this except for Bob. Saul confronted me yet again that same day. Saul, I see you brought the coffee maker back. Me? Yeah, Bob asked me to. Saul, you're lucky he didn't report you to Human Resources for it. Me? Report me to Human Resources. For a coffee maker. Yeah, okay. Saul, whatever. Now we can all have our coffee again, no thanks to you. Me? No thanks to me, yet it's my coffee maker. Saul, don't get that tone with me. I'll call Bob and he'll straighten you out again. As planned, I let the initial coffee supply stock run dry without ever replenishing it. I also didn't contribute anything to the coffee fund jar. This took about a week, and there was never any change in the jar. Saul confronts me yet again. Saul, hey Seth Borf, we are completely out of creamer and sugar, and the coffee tin itself is running low. Me, yeah, okay. Saul, don't you think you should get on that? Me, I'm not the company barista, Saul. Saul, okay, but we don't have any creamer or sugar. Me, then buy some. Saul, I thought you did that? Me, oh me? No. I had surgery that prevents me from shitting out creamer. Bring your own. Saul, Seth Borf, you need to do your job. Me, I do my job. What do you do? Saul, Seth. Me, no. Saul, what do you do? Don't say your job, because your job isn't to pester someone to buy coffee supplies out of their own pocket, is it? Saul, that's not very nice. Me, you're right. It's not very nice at all. It's also not nice to complain to Bob because I won't bring my own personal property to work, now is it? Saul, but we need coffee. Me, then bring your own. This isn't my job. If you want creamer, then you need to bring it in yourself. I'm not supplying the coffee anymore. Saul, Seth Borf, I'll call Bob again. Me, call him then. He'll tell you the same thing I just told you, and you'll have wasted your time. Just like how you're wasting my time now. I'm going home. Have a good one. I start walking out. Saul, wait, come back. When I go in for my next shift, all the supplies are fully stocked, and they remain that way for good. Someone else has taken the responsibility of resupplying the coffee. I even notice change in the jar regularly building up. I haven't contributed a single penny, but it's still filling up. Someone else has taken over handling the coffee supplies. I haven't asked who, but I think either Saul is doing it himself or he's got someone else doing it. It's free coffee for me, so I don't care either way. Update. Thanks for the silver. Update. Thanks for the gold. Update. Thanks for the Bless Up. Update. Thanks for the Bless Up Pro. Update. Thanks for the ring. Update. Eliminated all acronyms as to abide by this sub's rules. Long overdue update. I had to finally retire the coffee maker about a week ago because somebody decided to steal my coffee pot from it. Pissed me off so much that I just took the thing home. Saul is no longer at my plant, so nobody seemed to care anyway. The malicious compliance was perfect and executed flawlessly. It was also funny how people fight over small things like coffee. BTW, OP complied and got free coffee for most of his time at the office. Whatever, the compliance was perfect, which ensured OP would get free coffee.